Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. It's been a while since our last video. Had a major move and a few other things happened, but things have settled down, so I'm going to start getting back to producing some new videos on some fantastic vintage kits. So today, to kick it off for the next round of kits, we're going to look at an Airfix kit, 1/72nd scale of the Westland Whirlwind. This was first issued in 1977, and it's kit number 02064-0. It's a Series 2 kit. As you see up in the top over here, it's got a new kind of badge there. This was the second Westland Whirlwind kit that Airfix had produced. The first one had come out in 1958 and ran for a few issues, and in 1977 they did a whole new tooling and much improved over the previous version of it. And so let's take a look at it, see what we got. So you got a Roy Cross painting on the cover here. This was used a few more times on a few other issues of this particular molding. On the side here, you've got information about Airfix, 1977. They're suggesting specific paints, and instructions are in English, French, and German. This is back when they were still taped. It's the original tape. It's later tape that was issued on it. On the end, you've got your kit number here, Series 2. Made in England. And then on the side here, you've got information about the markings that are being provided, and the side profile and color, which is nice. And on the other end, similar information. So those of you who aren't familiar with the Westland Whirlwind, it was a contemporary sort of the Hurricane and the Spitfire. Right after the Hurricane and Spitfire had been, the prototypes had been ordered on those, it was recognized that the speeds of aircraft had increased so much that machine gun fire probably wasn't going to be sufficient to bring down enemy aircraft, particularly bombers. And so the Air Ministry wanted to create an aircraft that had that was cannon armed. And so they put out a specification in 1935. It was F-37/35, and it called for a 4-cannon armed aircraft with a minimum speed of 330 miles an hour at 15,000 feet. There were 8 designs from 5 different companies that were put forth, and the front runners were a Boulton Paul P-88, a Supermarine 312, and Westland's P-9. The contract was issued in February 37 to Westland for their P-9. The P-88, 312 from Supermarine were also initially issued contracts, but those were canceled shortly after, since they thought that those companies were inundated with other aircraft that they were producing. So the original designer on this was design leader for the team that developed it was a W.E. Teddy Petter. Used a lot of state-of-the-art technology. This was a pretty advanced aircraft when it was first designed. And that included a monocoque fuselage, a truly monocoque fuselage, particularly the tubular rear half of the fuselage. It used Fowler flaps, a T-tail. There were leading edge Hanley Page slats. A bubble canopy was a new innovation, and wing leading edge radiators. So a lot of new innovations were put into this design to try to get as much out of it as they could with as compact of an aircraft as they possibly could. The Whirlwind, even though it's a twin-engine aircraft, was really not that much bigger than a Spitfire or a Hurricane, surprisingly. So the engines that were chosen for it were the Rolls-Royce Pershings, which were a development of the Kestrel. A lot of people think that the Pershings were the downfall of the Whirlwind, and they really weren't. The Pershing had a little bit of teething trouble, like a lot of new engines will. They pretty much hammered them out fairly quickly. It wasn't really a rated engine for super high altitude, though. There was a later version of the engine that could have been used with better turbo superchargers, but Rolls-Royce was really focused on working on the Merlin, the Vulture at the time, which ended up not doing very well. Then of course the Griffin came along a little bit later. So it wasn't so much that the Pershing was a bad engine, it just wasn't a highly developed engine, and they weren't going to spend a lot of time since only one aircraft was using it. So it first flew in October of 1938. I was able to put up 360 miles an hour. So it was pretty fast, which is contemporary for the other fighters at the time, Spitfire and Hurricane, particularly the Spitfire. And but it did have limited range, though, so it wasn't a long-legged aircraft, as a lot of fighters were at that time. So the first deliveries didn't occur on it until, let's see, oh, no, I'm sorry. The first engine deliveries didn't occur until January 1940. Rolls-Royce, again, was heavily involved in trying to get the Merlin going, and we're really focused on that. So the Pershing was kind of a sideline thing, so they weren't really focused on it, which then resulted in some delays in getting the Whirlwind going, even though first flight had been in 37, ordered in 37 and first flight in 38. It took a while before they started getting a true production line going. Originally there was 250 that were ordered, or 200 that were ordered, and then an additional order of 200 more was placed shortly after that. But the development on this aircraft, there was about 250 modifications that had to be done on it. So aside from the engine delays, there was also a lot of teething that they had to kind of work out with the aircraft in order for it to become successful. So it's a little bit of a background history on it. So let's take a look at our kit. So we've got in here our decals. Got little tissues stuck on here. We've got a little insert for the Modelers Club that you could join. You could also send in, if you're missing a part, and you could send this, get a replacement part. And here we have the instructions. So this specifically is for Whirlwind Mark 1. There's really only one mark. There was a second mark, when they added racks for carrying bombs, but that wasn't done. That wasn't a separate build aircraft. Those were modifications of Mark 1s, which became Mark 2s when they had the bomb shackles added. So you see here we've got call-outs for the different parts, and broken up into steps. Pilot, get your wings, undercarriage, a little bit more sophisticated than earlier Airfix kits. So they did have some special instructions here. If you're going to be doing the retracted gear version of it, you omit certain parts. And then some just general instructions. Little blurb of information about the Whirlwind down here. And then on the back side, got the painting instructions and decal placement, giving you a foreview and call outs for the colors. They're recommending olive drab, slate gray, and light aircraft gray. So these markings are of a specific aircraft mentioned here and on the side of the box. And here you can see the the decal sheet itself. So it's a Whirlwind Mark 1, P7102. This was a presentation aircraft. Husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Ellis of Fiji, purchased or donated money, the equivalent of the cost of, I believe it was 5 Whirlwinds. So they got to name them, and they named this particular one Comrade in Arms. And so it's got, you can see on here, got a very small decal here for that. And there are a few photographs of that particular plane. So I'm going to show those to you here. Okay, so now let's take a look at the kit itself. I got classic Airfix stand. Got your upper and lower wing here. Only a couple of locator pins. But it does look like it would make for a fairly thin wing, which is different from some of the other ones. Looks like the Fowler Fap guide is a little bit bent here, but it is all raised panel lines, very minimal. There's an engraved line in there for the aileron. And here we have our other wing. Not much additional detail inside the wheel well. Here we have our fuselage. Again, very minimal amount of raised panel lines on it. It is nice that a lot of the parts are protected, particularly the propellers. Got your wheels. No detail inside the cockpit. But here are the closed wheel well doors. Unlike Spitfires and Hurricanes, the Whirlwind had retractable tail wheel as well. And here we have the horizontal stabilizers, some of the cockpit detail, landing gear pieces. And then you get your little pilot. Pretty good looking little pilot. Center him here for you. There he is. And a little bit of cockpit decking. Pretty nice, thin props. Not a bad little kit. Definitely better than some of the 50s, Airfix. And here's the canopy. So it's got a nice raised panel lines on it. Pretty. It's not the clearest. There's some distortion, kind of dimples in there. But not too bad. Definitely better than some of the early Airfixes that were just literally just a blob of clear. This has got some good framing on it, a little bit of details, and not too bad. So overall, kind of a neat little kit. Better than their earlier stuff, but not super detailed. There's definitely some room for improvement in here if you wanted to add a lot to it yourself. So what happened to the Whirlwind? Well, the Whirlwind, by the time it became operational, really didn't, get to squadron service until, late 1940, really, but not really active until 41. And by that time, there was already, plans in the makes, and we're already starting to see some cannons being put onto Hurricanes and Spitfires. You also had the Bristol Beaufighter, which turned out to be a fantastic aircraft. So, the idea of, hey, we got to come up with something with the cannon. Well, it was getting, the cannons were getting put on other aircraft. So there wasn't as much of a need for the Whirlwind. It was short-ranged. It really wasn't ranged any better than the Spitfires and Hurricanes, but other twin-engine aircraft had a lot better range. It could carry heavier load. Because the cannon were concentrated in a very slender fuselage in the nose, you couldn't put radar in there, so the Beaufighter was able to handle radar and do night fighting. And then later you got the Mosquito getting involved in that as well too. And of course some American aircraft that were coming over, like the A-20 Havoc, and there just really wasn't much of a place for it. And it was using an engine that nothing else was using. Rolls-Royce had a lot on their plate. The aircraft did not do very well at high altitude, and as mentioned before, the Pershing wasn't really the best engine for high altitude, but it wasn't a bad engine. It just wasn't set up for high altitude. Combined with some poor choices in propellers, the propellers that were selected for the aircraft just weren't able to get a good bite of the air. They were constant speed. I think it was a rotor propeller that just was not very successful above 15,000 feet. So the Whirlwind really was just only effective as a low altitude fighter, and that's what it spent most of its time doing. So it ended up only 112 aircraft were produced in 2 prototypes. It was first sent to 25 Squadron in June of 1940, but that squadron was going to get reformed as a Beaufighter Night Fighter Squadron since they had been a Blenheim Night Fighter Squadron. So they took those planes and then ended up sending them to 263 Squadron. They received their first aircraft in July of 1940 up in Scotland. And then because of the slow deliveries, they really didn't have enough to equip the full squadron, become squadron operational till December 1940. So they ended up missing Battle of Britain, even though this is an aircraft that could have been involved in it. There just wasn't very many of them. Its first kill was in February 1941. It was an Arado 196. They had some success, at low altitudes against Focke-Wulfs, Bf-109s, various different German maritime aircraft. They did a lot of anti-shipping work in the channel. They did low-level attacks across the channel called rhubarbs and roadsteads. Rhubarbs were against land targets, and roadsteads were against shipping targets. They occasionally escorted some light bomber attacks into Netherlands, Belgium, north part of France. They formed the 2nd Squadron, 137, in September of 41. And then in the summer of 42 is where they fitted bomb racks, became the Mark II. They could carry 250 or 500-pound bombs. They were sometimes nicknamed Whirly bombers. And that helped them out a little bit in their attack capability, going after ground targets. But they didn't stick around for very long. The 137 Squadron retired the aircraft in June of 43, and 263 let go of their aircraft in November. And by January 1st, 44, they'd been declared obsolete. The remaining surviving aircraft ended up going to a maintenance unit, and all of them ended up being scrapped. Westland did buy back one of their aircraft, and they kept it for a couple of years. They were using it for some various testing on their own, but eventually that ended up being scrapped around like 1946, 47. There are currently no surviving Westland Whirlwinds. There was a dig for actually the first crashed Whirlwind. They were able to recover the engines, a couple of some parts, and there's an organization that was created to try to make a reproduction of a Whirlwind using some of those parts and a lot of reproduction parts. The cockpit area that they've created is on view in one of the museums in England right now. So that's the Whirlwind. Interesting airplane. I think they kind of bit off a little more than they could chew, with all the innovations they did, which then caused a lot of delays. And in selecting an engine that really, wasn't getting backed by anybody. And they just kind of, it was a good start, but just they couldn't quite get over the finish line with this aircraft. Now, Airfix did re-release this a few more times. They released it in, a new boxing of it in 1980, another one in 83, new artwork in 97, and it was reissued again in 2009, both as an individual kit and as one of their starter sets. As far as other companies, the Czech company of Bilek issued it in 93 and 97. They did put different decals in it, which is kind of nice if you're looking for something a little different than what everybody else is producing with Airfix. These decals have run through every Airfix issue. So if you want something a little different, the Bilek one is for another 137 Squadron aircraft, P6993, and that's squadron coded SFH or SFA. And then SK in Poland also released this in 1994. They put out their own decals as well on this. They did a 263 Squadron one with the coding of HEV with the serial number of P6969. What I do find interesting about this is that if you notice on the box art's got an HE on here. So that's the 263 Squadron aircraft. But yet the decals on all the issues from Airfix were all the SF from 137 Squadron. So it's kind of different. Usually, the box art, tied in with the decal thing. So I don't know if, Roy Cross just didn't get the right information sent over to him on what they were doing, or if there was a change at some point in the production that they decided they're going to make a different aircraft than this one. But kind of a little interesting side thing. Well, that's it for today. If you've built this kit, let us know about it. If you got any pictures of a built Whirlwind, not just this particular molding of it, but if you got the earlier one, that would be neat too. Send that in. The email address is in the channel description, and we're going to be putting together another viewer build video at some point here when we get a few more. So if you got any other vintage kits that you built that you've got some photographs of that you'd like to send those in as well too. But especially if you got a built Whirlwind, that would be really nice to see too. Well, thanks for watching, and as usual on our out, we'll show you all the different box arts from the other issues. So thank you very much again. Thanks for your patience for this latest video, and have yourself a great rest of your day.